Hello, and welcome to Tech and More. As part of the ongoing series that is Salesforce Automation Testing, welcome to another video. In this video, we are going to discuss the concept of wait in Selenium and understand the significance of different types of waits, for example, implicit, explicit, and Thread.sleep. Before going on, let me share with you that since Selenium 4.0 is something which is latest, so we will be incorporating the latest syntax in tandem with Selenium 4 for all the concepts that we're going to discuss, right? So yeah, let's start. But before actually talking about implicit, explicit, wait, and Thread.sleep, I want to talk more about what wait is. What was the need for introducing wait, right? So let me navigate you to a website which is login.salesforce.com or our dev, right? Now, manually, when you navigate to a website or you click on an element, right? For example, in that case, you might encounter delays at times, right? So, and some element might not be clickable for zero point 0.5 seconds or zero point 0.7 seconds or something like that. Now, manually, such an issue will not be a stop or a block for you for executing the remaining test case. But for a system that is Selenium for the computer, all in all, the systems, the automations, they're actually all dependent on us humans. We have made them smart, right? So independently, the systems are not smart. So what it will do, even if it is not able to find an element for zero point 0.5 seconds, it will go ahead and it will fail the execution and not execute the remaining steps, which leads to a false failure, which is a big problem, a big reason to worry, right? So to make sure that we are not encountering any false failures, the concept of wait was introduced. That is, you tell the system or you tell Selenium rather, you tell your automation tool or Selenium to wait for that particular amount of time. And you know, as per your experience, you feel that yes, this page might get delayed by 1 second or 1.5 seconds. So you know what? Let me declare a wait of 1 second. So Selenium or any automation tool for that matter, because this feature is common to all automation tools, the tool will wait for 1 second before executing the next step. That is it. That is why the concept of waits was introduced. Cool. Now let's discuss what is implicit wait. So before discussing the difference between implicit and explicit, let me tell you that both implicit and explicit waits are used to wait for an element to appear on the page. This is similar, right? And let's suppose you declared the wait time to be 5 seconds, for example. And if the page loads before 5 seconds, let's say in 1 or 2 seconds, or let's say if it loads even more quickly than that, then both in the case of implicit and explicit, the tool will not wait for the entire 5 seconds that you have declared. So it is the maximum basically, right? So if it is basically less than or equal to, which is less than or equal to the number of seconds that you have defined, for example, 5, right? So if it is able to find that when less than 5 seconds, it will go ahead and execute. This is the similarity between implicit and explicit. There is a method which is Thread.sleep that is opposite to it, right? It will wait for the exact time which is declared, and it will, I mean, even if the page loads earlier to that, it will still wait. That is something we'll discuss at the end, but for now understand that a lot of people get confused between implicit and explicit in this manner, that you know what this is. So the similarity that I told you is basically perceived as a difference, so it's not. In both the cases, if the page loads before the declared time, it will go ahead and execute the steps, it will not wait. Now what is the difference? In implicit wait, we set a default timeout for the entire test runtime, or we declare it globally. What is it? Let me take you to the code. Okay. So in line number 19, you see it says driver.manage. This is what you have seen in previous videos. Then it says dot timeouts, that is declaring that we are going to assign some time here. Then it says implicit wait, duration of seconds, and then you pass in the number of seconds that you want the system to wait for, right? So implicit wait, basically what it will do is, so for example, on line number 22, we have a step that navigates you to the website, right? So let me show it to you manually, it will make more sense. So let's suppose the test cases I need to navigate to this website, enter username, enter password, click on login, right? So we're using implicit wait, and let's suppose if I give an implicit wait of 5 seconds, the script or the tool will make sure that before every step. That is, before navigating to URL, before entering username, before entering password, before clicking on login. It always waits for 5 seconds. That is something which is declared at a global level. So before each and every step, 5 seconds will be the time that the system will wait. Of course, as I told you, if it loads before 5 seconds, it will go ahead and perform the actions. But in worst case scenario, it will wait for 5 seconds for each and every step, right? So this is what implicit wait is. Now, one might ask that what was the need for explicit wait, right? So explicit wait, basically the keyword in explicit wait is condition, right? So in implicit, there is no condition. It declares wait, or it uh, asks the system or the tool to wait for the decided time for all the steps. But in explicit, that is, let me show you the slide as well to make more sense. In explicit wait, it sets timeout for specific conditions. Let's see that as well. Let me take you to the code and let's focus on line number 31. Now, line number 26 and 27 is where something wherein we are fetching the XPath and storing it into a web element object. This is something we have discussed earlier. So when you have to find an element, this driver don't find element. Usually the better approach is to store it in a web element so it can be used very easily later on in the coming methods, right? So we have captured the username element and the password element address in this variable, and then we'll be using it later on. This is something you need not worry about. If you have seen the previous video, it makes entire sense to you, right? Now in line number 31, let's focus on the code which says WebDriver wait is equals to new WebDriver wait driver dot duration of seconds 10. So we have instantiated a wait object from the WebDriver wait class, and we have given the duration of seconds to wait as 10. Now, the most important one is line number 33. Let me zoom it a bit. In line number 33, it says wait, which is the object that we instantiated in line number 31, dot until, then in the bracket it says expected conditions dot visibility of, and then you have the element that you need to wait for, which we have already talked about in the line number 26 and 27, right? So expected conditions is the keyword here. So what it basically says is that if till the time the element which is declared in this parameter as a username element is not visible, you wait for 10 seconds, which is mentioned in line number 31. Again, in line number 31, we mentioned that how many seconds we want to wait for 10 seconds explicitly. And then in line number 33, we say that, okay, you have to wait for 10 seconds, but on what condition? So it says that you have to wait for 10 seconds until the username text box is visible, dot visibility of, right? So that is the condition. If it is visible before 10 seconds, it will go ahead and it will execute, as we discussed multiple times. So that is what explicit is. That is, you give a condition, and until and unless that condition is not complete, right, or until and unless that condition is not satisfied, it will wait for the given amount of time, which is 10 in our case, right? Now, one thing to note, this is not the only method that comes with expected conditions. There are multiple methods. So I'll click dot, right? And then you have these numerous methods. For example, alert is present. So let's suppose if you want to wait till that alert is verified, then you use alert is present. Then you have these multiple methods that can be used depending upon the situation. So go ahead and have a look, explore these methods as well. And these methods will be very, very useful for you in the projects. For now, of course, I'll be using visibility off, right? So this is all you need to know about implicit and explicit. Don't worry, I'll be sharing the code in the document in which will be shared thereafter in the video description. So all in all, this is implicit and explicit. Now let's talk about Thread.sleep, right? So as I was talking about it a few minutes ago, Thread.sleep basically means that it has no conditions. Like implicit has, explicit has that, it will, implicit will be before every step, explicit is dependent upon a condition, nothing. If you see Thread.sleep, there is no parameter except for time. There are no conditions. So it basically means that Thread.sleep give the parameter, that is the duration of seconds or milliseconds rather, that you want to hold the execution for. So what it will do is that Thread.sleep basically pauses the execution for mentioned duration, even if the element is found on the web page. It is as simple as that an execution is going on, right? And I simply want to go ahead and I want to stop the execution for the defined number of seconds. That's it. It's as simple as that. There are conditions when you have to implement a way by which you can go ahead and you can, you want to stop the execution. So that is where Thread.sleep helps, right? So in line number 38, we have something which is 20,000 milliseconds, which is basically 20 seconds, right? Okay, just let me. It's 20,000. So basically, 1,000 milliseconds is 1 second, right? So now I'll show the execution to you in real time, but cool. So I have declared thread.sleep as 10 seconds. So what it will do is after completing the entire execution above, it will wait for 10 seconds. So let's see it in action. And at that point of time, the system will stay as it is static, right? Let me click on play and let's see what I'm talking about. So let us see how it opens the browser. It did. Now you see the window is open as it is. It's not doing anything because I mentioned thread.sleep. So it will wait for 10 seconds and then it will close. While we spoke, 10 seconds were complete and then it just closed it. So whenever you want to pause the execution without any logic, that is when you use thread.sleep.